This ceremony marks the successful completion of a long journey in this region to eradicate polio. It also marks one of the biggest public health achievements.
India's determination to achieve the impossible, to go from the world's heaviest burden of polio cases to zero. When you look at it against these challenges, India's achievement is truly an epic success story, a proof that any country that really wants to can defeat polio. India has shown the world that there is no such thing as impossible. This is likely the greatest lesson and the greatest inspiration for the rest of the world. India's leadership in polio eradication is widely appreciated and warmly welcomed, especially by the 194 countries in WHO.
Oh gosh, Nancy, you're still here?
You know, sir, I was watching a video and I need to talk to you about it. India is polio-free now. I want to do a story about it. Before 2009, India had registered nearly half of the world's polio cases, and thus it is a huge achievement. What do you think?
I think it's a very good idea, Nancy. So you go ahead and I'll make all the arrangements.
Let me introduce myself to a country where unity in diversity is a way of life. Namaste, India. My name is Nancy, a journalist from Sweden, and this is Sumit, my assistant. I have come here to learn how India has successfully eradicated polio. Be a part of our journey, which is expected to be an inspiring one. After a warm welcome in the capital city of Delhi, we head to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to meet Mrs. Anuradha Gupta.
In India, there was a time when we used to have 200,000 cases a year. Okay. So clearly more than 200,000 children were getting crippled by polio. And that was around 1978. So when we started out in 1995, we realized it was a massive mammoth task in a country which is so large, where the annual birth cohort was so large. And therefore clearly we innovated a lot. We knew strategies. How do you track children everywhere? How do you reach those populations which were so resistant? And with the result that in 2009, though a number of polio cases annually had come down from 50,000 to 741, we still had the world's highest polio burden, and the polio incidence in India was the largest globally, and we also accounted for half of the global polio cases. So clearly our next challenge was, how do we reach a position of zero polio in this country? And that didn't seem easy at all, because there were experts now who had started to believe that India would not be able to stop polio at all.
WHO has been a lead technical partner to the government in this whole endeavor. So there has been a very tight connection and coordination happening between the WHO and the government at all levels. In fact, in 1997, the special project has been set up, collaborative project between the government and WHO, National Polio Surveillance Project, which was established to actually help government at all levels, district, state and union level, to do a proper surveillance of the polio cases, but also to help in mass vaccination campaigns.
Surveillance played a major role in the success that India has achieved in polio eradication. The surveillance helped to understand what kind of polio viruses were circulating and the areas in which they were circulating, the populations that were getting affected by the polio viruses. It also helped to measure the progress in terms of where we were in the journey to polio eradication. And also it helped to design tailored strategies that were targeted to the high-risk populations that were identified through the surveillance system. So the way the surveillance system is set up in India is that all the recently paralyzed children are investigated. Each case of acute flaccid paralysis that gets reported through the system is promptly investigated. This investigation happens usually within 48 hours of its notification to the system. The surveillance system in India had the support of the WHO's National Polio Surveillance Project, which is a project that was established in 1997 and currently has more than 350 surveillance medical officers that are engaged with the sensitization and training of these reporting sites. They make active surveillance visits to these 40,000 reporting sites. There is also a system of providing feedback to these reporting sites, because if people report, they want to know what happened to these cases, and that in itself is a motivation for further reporting these, so that's how this system is set up with these 40,000 health facilities.
Dr. Behel explained how surveillance is carried out in India. He told us that in addition to surveillance for cases of paralysis, sewage samples are also collected from 23 sites every week across 6 states. These sewage samples also supplement the efforts in detection of polio. He told us that even sewage samples have not shown any wild polio viruses in the last 3 years, thus giving the Indian program the confidence that polio has indeed gone from India. We understood that stool and sewage sampling is an important part of surveillance for polio. These samples are collected and sent to the laboratories for polio virus detection.
The stool sample is received in the laboratory. The stool sample is checked for leakage, breakage, cold chain, and is accepted as a good sample for processing for virus isolation. Microscopy is done for 5 days. In this laboratory, we use real-time PCR technique to identify whether the stool sample contained poliovirus type 1, type 2 or poliovirus type 3, or it contained non-polio enteroviruses. The test further differentiates the viruses into wild type virus or a strain related to the Sabin oral polio vaccine. Further testing of Sabin vaccine related strains is done to identify whether the isolate is a vaccine derived polio virus. For this purpose, we use genetic sequencing as our gold standard test. The 16 laboratories in Southeast Asia region have incorporated internal quality control tests to ensure that results are accurate, timely, and reported correctly to the program. The WHO has supported the quality assurance program in the network laboratories through training workshops that are carried out at the Global Specialized Polio Laboratory in Mumbai every year. The laboratories are visited by experts to observe all the processes that are done for testing stool specimens, and every year each of the laboratory is provided an accreditation certification.
And then, all the data from the field and laboratories is collated and analyzed to understand the spread of the polio virus. An important component of the analysis is to identify the populations at high risk and whether the eradication efforts are on the right track. Let's hurry, else we'll miss the train. After an informative interaction with WHO officials to understand the various strategies recommended by WHO, we start our journey in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We start from Moradabad, where the maximum number of polio cases used to be registered. As we stepped out of the train at Moradabad, I saw vaccinators at the station, vaccinating children up to 5 years of age. Out of curiosity, I asked the vaccinator about the 2 drops of polio vaccine and the mark that they put on the little finger of the left hand of children. The vaccinator explained that this is a standard procedure followed for vaccinating and identifying the vaccinated kids. It was amazing to see that the vaccinators were not only inside the station but also outside to find children who might have been missed so that they could be vaccinated. We learned that the program faced many challenges in the past in Uttar Pradesh, one of the 2 historic polio reservoirs in India. These include refusal by certain communities to get their children vaccinated against polio. Innovative strategies were launched for mobilizing these communities. I spoke with Dr. Ashish, a surveillance medical officer working with WHO in Uttar Pradesh, to throw more light on the subject.
WHO, along with UNICEF and other mobilization partners, we identified certain group of peoples who have influence in the community. Especially we included religious leaders, ration dealers, kotedars, and educational communities leaders who have influence in the community, and they support our program.
Can we meet some of these influential people?
Yeah, if you wish, we could go to our Shahri Imam.
आज पोलियो रविवार है। 5 साल से कम उम्र के बच्चों को लेकर पोलियो बूथ पर वक्त पर पहुंच जाइए।
So, how have you as a religious leader contributed to eradicating polio?
देखिए, हम लोगों ने वैक्सीन पिलाने का काम किया। साथ में लोगों को
We supported the polio vaccination campaigns. We informed the people that the polio vaccine has no side effects. But a child once affected cannot be cured. So it is your responsibility to get polio vaccines for your children for good health and a better life.
Rotary's role can be categorized in 3 broad ways. The first category would include advocacy, political advocacy, advocacy with bureaucrats, and advocacy with religious leaders. The second broad category would be social mobilization, that is to get parents to bring their children to the booths. And the third would be help during operations.
How do we keep our children healthy and care about their health? Polio is a disease which cannot be cured. Many health organizations are extensively working on this issue, and it's now our responsibility to get our children up to 5 years of age vaccinated against polio.
तो हर शख्स को चाहिए कि अपने 0 साल से लेकर 5 साल के बच्चों को पोलियो की दवाएं जरूर पिलाएं।
After the inauguration of a polio booth by a religious leader, children gather from neighborhood to get vaccinated. What was interesting is the important role that the local kids play in mobilizing other children to get vaccinated at the polio booth.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
The kids are looked after and kept engaged by the community mobilization coordinators at the polio booth while they are waiting for their turn to get vaccinated. Distribution of masks, flags and balloons make these kids super happy. It was fun playing with these kids at the booth. Let's find out how WHO officials keep the vaccinators and community mobilization coordinators engaged and motivated to perform their job efficiently and effectively. How long have you been working here?
I'm working for polio eradication since the last almost 10 years.
It's a long time. Did you ever get any training?
Yes, we are trained before every round by WHO and the government.
You didn't get bored after 10 years?
No, training teaches us something new every time and it makes the work more interesting.
A community mobilization coordinator spoke about the process through which they track newborn babies who are most vulnerable to the disease. Apart from this, a detailed list is prepared to keep a tab on guests coming in to the household along with the number of kids. Accordingly, even the guest kids are vaccinated.
We have been leading as the communication specialist in this and technical partner in this endeavor. And from the beginning, maybe it goes back at least over 10 years ago, there was the recognition that there was a real issue with demand for polio vaccination. And one of the key elements has been the creation of what we call the SMNet. It is a social monitoring network that has been put in place. And this group, in fact, is 8,500 strong women group. And they all come from the hard-to-reach communities. So they are from the communities, they know the language, they know the culture, they have their own network. They have been able to identify every child, follow up the child after the first round of immunization and the subsequent round. And as a result, over the years, we've been able to cover 99% at all time of children to be immunized. So that's a major contribution that UNICEF, in support of government, have been able to put together. The second one, which is in support of the first contribution, is to associate the mass media. And what we chose is a unique branding. Okay. One brand, one branding, one message. In a nutshell, these are some of the contributions that I think we can be proud of over the last 7 years.
And now the search begins for those who could not or did not make it to the polio booth. The vaccinators go to the locality and gather all the information, like how many children are there in the house, whether they have been vaccinated or not, and if not, then the children are vaccinated on the spot. It was surprising for me to see that some people refused to get their children vaccinated. So the vaccinators marked the house accordingly. In this case, the local religious leader came to our rescue and persuaded them for polio immunization. After which, they relented and accordingly the mark of the house was changed. Program has constantly innovated to overcome the challenges faced. One of the challenges has been to reach out to migrant communities as they are constantly on the move. Therefore, there is intense focus on migrant communities at construction sites, slums, brick kilns, and nomadic sites. After finishing the visit to the locality, a detailed report is presented to the supervisor by vaccinators, while the surveillance medical officers and monitors from WHO visit some of the areas to cross-check the information and assess if any children have been missed. It was important to know how the vaccine is distributed amongst the vaccinators on time. For this, we visited a vaccine storage point at 3 a.m. in the morning. We now had a good understanding of the polio immunization program in Uttar Pradesh. To understand the intricacies of the polio program a bit more, we began our journey to the next destination, Bihar, which was the second of the historic polio reservoirs in India. As I was traveling to Bihar, I recalled the information given by the officials in Delhi.
And this they were saying on the strength of the fact that we had two states, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, where polio transmission was very intense. They had come to be regarded as incubators of polio virus. And regardless of the fact that the rest of India had virtually become polio-free, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar actually were responsible for the spread of polio in many other parts of the country also.
In UP and Bihar states, obviously the conditions and context in those states where you have also poor sanitation conditions and high diarrheal rates and a lot of marginalized and migrant populations, high population density, very high birth rate. So those factors together have made it very, very difficult.
To get more information about this area, we met Dr. Madhu Bajpai, Regional Team Leader of WHO in Bihar.
Yes, you must be aware that in Bihar we have got 38 districts, and the worst part is that out of 38, 30 districts are flood-prone districts, and the effect of that flood is somewhere around 3 to 5 months. That how we are going to reach these access compromised areas. We wanted basically to increase our reach. So what we have done, we have established 56 satellite offices. So first of all, we have prepared these maps. After that, we have established satellite point according to our maps. Once we have established that, we have started using these offices. Like primary health center is very far from, suppose, 10 villages or 20 villages, and it takes 3 hours or 4 hours. So this activity starts early in the morning, somewhere around 3:30 a.m. Here we don't have a facility of other states, like we don't have a big deep freezer. So for that, what happens, we go to ice factory, where this contract was given to the particular ice factory by the medical officer in charge. So at 3:30 a.m. they send it to the primary health center, which is the first cold chain point for that particular block. They start distributing these vaccines to some sub-depot. There is a need of head loader who can load whole box on the head.
The head loaders take these cold boxes for dispersal. Keeping the geographic challenges in mind, different areas have different modes of vaccine distribution. In this village, the boxes are carried on a bicycle, which is further transported to the other side of the river on a boat. Once the vaccine is distributed to the vaccinators, they go to each and every household to vaccinate kids. Bihar does not have polio booths. However, after conducting house-to-house visits, one vaccinator stations herself at a prominent location in the village called Pratirakshan Sthal to reach out to the children passing by, while her partner goes back to houses where children could not be found in the morning. The WHO representative to India also told us about that one thing which was most critical for the successful implementation of these polio campaigns in the toughest polio battlefields of the world.
Monitoring and evaluation. So the whole accountability framework which has been designed around this project has been critical in terms of making sure that strategies are not just declared but implemented, monitored, and the deficiencies are found and the solutions are put in place.
To witness the monitoring process that plays an important role in polio eradication, I'm going to the village along with WHO monitors once again on bikes. The bikes are further loaded on a boat to reach the destination. As a part of the process, supervisors meet over a cup of tea in the evening to take stock of the gaps identified during the day and plan for action the following day. It was an awe-inspiring, exhilarating, and touching experience to see how vaccinators and WHO officials execute their jobs effectively and efficiently every time, despite all the adversities. What we witnessed was the epitome of dedication towards polio eradication. Owing to the tough terrain and floods in the area, the vaccinators carry the vaccine carrier in one hand and swim across the river to reach temporary field huts called basas, where some villagers station themselves with their kids for the whole day during the crop season. location of a brick factory, we travelled in a car, which was later loaded on the boat to reach the location. We sought permission of the factory manager to enter the premises and vaccinate the kids. During our visit, we came across this touching story of a polio-affected father whose eyes shine up at the sight of polio vaccinators. The man rushed inside a hut and brought his kid out for vaccination. The father wanted to ensure that the child does not go through the same suffering as he has, and hence he gets his kid vaccinated every time. The entire process left a heartwarming smile on his face, and ours too. We now move to Mumbai to witness a special program to vaccinate street children at night, perhaps the only one of its kind in India. And now we head to our final destination, Wagah border in Amritsar. The Government of India has played a sterling role in polio eradication. The role of partners too has been critical.
The most important role probably should be attributed to the government, and government at all levels. There have been a major stewardship provided by the union government, and resources, of course, have been mobilized by the union government, and a lot of oversight has been provided and strategic directions from the government. At state level, there has been major effort in mobilizing organizing the system in such a way that at every district you had credible human resources with well-trained capacity of people. A lot of logistic issues had to be organized around the vaccination campaign.
It was a national commitment. Polio was one program where the national government actually spent more than 2.5 billion US dollars, 2.5 billion. And in fact, in India, polio is one program which has been domestically funded.
The government and WHO have left no stone unturned to make sure that not only is polio eradicated from the country, but all efforts are made to prevent the importation of the virus from countries where it still continues to survive. To reduce the risk of importation of polio virus into India, it is now mandatory for all the passengers travelling from countries with current polio transmission. Be it small kids or adults, each and every one who enters India and does not have the polio vaccination certificate is given polio vaccination at the immigration post. After vaccination, these passengers get the certificate of clearance. At 102 border crossing points between India and its neighbouring countries, polio drops are provided at special vaccination posts round the year. Similarly, at the Atari railway station, passengers who deboard the train are checked and vaccinated at the immigration counter. This marks the end of my physical, educational, emotional, and inspiring journey to the polio-free land of India. Thank you for being a part of this journey.